Do you remember Cloud Atlas? It's the 2012 sci-fi epic starring Tom Hanks and Halle Berry, where the same actors played different characters across 6 different time periods, spanning from the 1800s all the way to a post-apocalyptic future. It's okay if you don't remember it, because honestly, most people don't. Cloud Atlas is one of those movies that when you bring it up in conversation, people either go, "Oh yeah, I think I saw that," or they look at you like you just made up a movie that doesn't exist. But here's the crazy thing. This film had 3 directors, an all-star ensemble cast, a budget of over $100 million, and it was based on a critically acclaimed novel that people said was impossible to adapt. And somehow, the people behind The Matrix said, "Challenge accepted," and actually got it made. But when it hit theaters, it absolutely tanked at the domestic box office and polarized just about everyone who watched it. So today, I want to take a deep dive into Cloud Atlas to explore the incredible story of how this movie got made, understand why it failed to find an audience, and offer some of my personal thoughts on the film. The story of Cloud Atlas begins with a book. In 2004, British author David Mitchell published a novel called Cloud Atlas, which features 6 interconnected stories set across different time periods, nested inside each other like Russian dolls. The book was a critical darling. It was shortlisted for the Booker Prize and quickly gained a passionate fan base. However, pretty much everyone in Hollywood agreed on one thing. This book was unfilmable. Even David Mitchell himself said he thought adapting it was impossible. Here's a quote from Mitchell. "My only thought was, what a shame this could never be a film. It has a Russian doll structure. God knows how the book gets away with it, but it does. But you can't ask a viewer of a film to begin a film 6 times, the 6th time being an hour and a half in. They'd all walk out. Well, someone didn't get that memo." The Wachowskis, the filmmaking duo behind the Matrix trilogy, first became aware of the novel when Natalie Portman raved about it to Lana Wachowski on the set of V for Vendetta. The siblings fell head over heels for the book and became obsessed with the idea of turning it into a feature film. After optioning the novel, they brought in German filmmaker Tom Tykwer, who you may know as the director of Run Lola Run and Perfume, the Story of a Murderer, as a collaborator and co-director. The 3 officially joined forces in April of 2011. I just want to take a second to acknowledge how insane this is. 3 directors, 1 movie, 6 storylines. This is either a stroke of genius or a recipe for disaster, and honestly, it ended up being a little bit of both. Now here's where things get interesting. Despite having the creators of The Matrix attached, and despite having A-list names like Tom Hanks and Halle Berry signed on, no major studio wanted to fully finance this movie. Warner Brothers ran the numbers on Cloud Atlas using an economic model, and the results were so bad that they compared the film's projected box office to Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain. For reference, The Fountain made $10 million at the domestic box office. That's brutal. As Lana Wachowski said in an interview with Slashfilm, "We know it's a dark horse. If it was an obvious money proposition, Warner Brothers would have financed it in a second. They are an extremely conservative company, and we have made them, let us say, a significant amount of money." She also added, "It has no financial logic for us. We put our fees into it. We put our own money into it, because it was so important to us." And she wasn't kidding. The Wachowskis literally invested $7 million of their own personal money into Cloud Atlas when other funding sources fell through. The rest of the budget was pieced together from a patchwork of independent sources. German production companies, the German Federal Film Fund, Chinese investment company Dreams of Dragon Pictures, who put in over $10 million, and various other financiers from around the world. Warner Brothers eventually agreed to distribute the film across North America, the UK, France, Spain, Australia, and Japan, but at a reduced fee of $15 million for those distribution rights. By the time all the funding was secured, the budget was estimated to be somewhere between $100 and $146 million, depending on which source you ask, making it one of the most expensive independent films ever produced. By June of 2010, Tykwer had reached out to actors like Natalie Portman, Tom Hanks, Halle Berry, James McAvoy, and Ian McKellen to star in the film. By April of 2011, with Hanks and Barry confirmed in their roles, Hugo Weaving, Ben Whishaw, Susan Sarandon, and Jim Broadbent also joined the cast. Hugh Grant actually joined the cast just days before filming started, and was originally only supposed to play 5 roles, but he asked the Wachowskis for a 6th one. Yeah, you heard that right. Hugh Grant looked at this movie where he was already playing 5 different characters and said, "Give me one more." You have to respect that kind of energy. The unique thing about the production of Cloud Atlas was how they split up the directing duties. Tykwer and the Wachowskis filmed simultaneously using 2 separate camera crews. The Wachowskis mostly directed the 1849 storyline and the 2 future set stories, while Tykwer directed the stories set in 1936, 1973, and 2012. However, all 3 directors planned every segment of the film together in pre-production and worked closely throughout post-production. Principal photography kicked off on September 16th of 2011 at Studio Babelsberg in Potsdam, Germany. They also filmed in other locations across Germany, as well as Edinburgh and Glasgow in Scotland, and the island of Majorca in Spain. Warner Brothers originally wanted the film to come in at under 150 minutes, but ultimately agreed to the final runtime of 172 minutes. That's nearly 3 hours. For a movie that jumps between 6 different time periods, with the same actors playing different roles in heavy prosthetics, yeah, good luck marketing that one. Speaking of those prosthetics, they actually became one of the most controversial aspects of the film. In order to visually reinforce the theme that souls are connected across time and are reborn into different bodies, the filmmakers had the same actors play roles across different races, genders, and ages. This meant that we got things like Jim Sturgis and Hugo Weaving in prosthetics to appear East Asian in the Neo-Soul storyline, and Halle Berry in prosthetics to appear white in the 1849 storyline, and Duna Bay in prosthetics to appear Caucasian in other segments. This sparked a huge controversy. The Media Action Network for Asian Americans called out the yellow face in the film, and it became a major talking point in reviews. The directors responded that it was thematically necessary, that having the same actors portray multiple races across a 500-year story arc was meant to show the continuity of souls, which was critical to the story. I can see both sides of this argument. I understand the artistic intent behind it, but at the same time, some of these prosthetic transformations were really distracting, and I can absolutely see why people were offended by it. It's one of those decisions where the concept on paper sounds interesting, but the execution created a whole separate controversy that overshadowed what the film was trying to say. Besides directing the film, Tom Tykwer also co-composed the score alongside his longtime collaborators Reinhold Heil and Johnny Klimek. The score was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Original Score, and honestly, it might be the best part of the whole movie, but we'll get to that. Cloud Atlas premiered at the 2012 Toronto International Film Festival on September 8th, where it received a lengthy standing ovation. And then it proceeded to absolutely eat it at the box office. Cloud Atlas was released in theaters on October 26th of 2012 for an opening weekend gross of just $9.6 million from 2008 theaters. Box Office Mojo described the debut as dreadful. It debuted at number 2 in the US box office, right behind Argo. Audiences gave it a poor C+ cinema score, and the following week it dropped 44%. In the US, it went on to only make $27 million. Overseas, it did slightly better at $103 million, for a total worldwide gross of $130.5 million. Now, against a budget that ranged between $100 and $146 million, not including marketing and distribution, this film was a box office bomb. The saving grace is that because the budget was pooled across so many different investors, the risk was spread out. Some investors came out okay, and others definitely lost money. Warner Brothers reportedly only saw back about $15 million domestically after the theaters took their cut, which barely covered their acquisition price, let alone the marketing costs. As for the reviews, this is where Cloud Atlas gets really interesting, because this film is one of the most divisive movies of the 2000s. It currently holds a 66% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, a 55 on Metacritic, and roughly a 3.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. But those aggregated scores don't tell the full story. This is a movie that was simultaneously named on Best Film of 2012 lists and Worst Film of 2012 lists. The Village Voice named it the Worst Film of 2012, and it appeared on several other worst of lists as well. Meanwhile, other critics called it a masterpiece and one of the year's most important movies. There was no middle ground with this film. People either loved it or absolutely hated it. That 66% doesn't mean critics thought it was a C+. It means roughly 2/3 loved it and 1/3 despised it. So Cloud Atlas didn't make money, the reviews were all over the place, and this was clearly not a franchise starter. But unlike a lot of the films I cover on this channel, Cloud Atlas was never really intended to launch a franchise. There were no sequel plans, no trilogy announcements, no cinematic universe being mapped out. This is a standalone story based on a standalone novel. So the failure here isn't a failed franchise, it's a failed passion project. And honestly, that makes it even sadder. The Wachowskis and Tykwer poured everything they had into this movie. The Wachowskis put their own money in. They spent 4 years trying to get it financed. They convinced some of the biggest actors in Hollywood to play 6 different roles in heavy prosthetics for 3 hours. And the reward for all that effort was a box office bomb and a bunch of critics calling it pretentious nonsense. That's rough. But the question remains, what went wrong commercially? Why did nobody show up? And I think there are several factors at play here. First, this movie was nearly impossible to market. How do you sell a 3-hour movie with 6 different storylines, 6 different genres, and the same actors playing different roles across 500 years to a general audience in a 30-second TV spot? You can't. Warner Brothers tried with that incredible 6-minute extended trailer that dropped in July of 2012. And I'll give them credit. That trailer was a work of art. But how many people are going to sit through a 6-minute trailer? The average moviegoer who sees a 30-second ad is going to look at this movie and think, I have no idea what this is about, and move on. I like to call this the unmarketable masterpiece problem. When a film is so ambitious and complex in its structure that no trailer, poster, or TV spot can accurately convey what the movie actually is. You see this with a lot of these big, ambitious passion projects. The same thing happened with Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life. And it's the same problem that plagued Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain, which Warner Brothers themselves compared this movie to. If the average person can't understand what your movie is about from the marketing, they're not going to risk $15 and 3 hours of their time to find out. Second, the runtime. 3 hours. Nearly 3 hours for a movie that most people had never heard of, based on a book that most Americans hadn't read, with a structure that even fans of the novel thought was impossible to adapt. In 2012, general audiences were not showing up for 3-hour movies unless it was a Peter Jackson film or something with massive brand recognition. Cloud Atlas had neither. Third, this movie didn't have the franchise backing or brand recognition that audiences in 2012 were gravitating toward. This was the year of The Avengers, The Dark Knight Rises, and The Hunger Games. The era of original blockbusters was coming to an end, and the franchise era was in full swing. An original sci-fi epic with no sequel potential and a complex, non-linear story was just not what the market wanted in 2012. Fourth, and this might be controversial, but I think the Wachowskis' reputation actually hurt this film. Now hear me out. Obviously, The Matrix is one of the most iconic films of all time. But by 2012, the Wachowskis had come off of the widely maligned Matrix sequels and the box office bomb that was Speed Racer. Their name didn't carry the same weight it did in 1999. A lot of casual moviegoers had written them off after the sequels, and Speed Racer bombing didn't help matters. If the Matrix directors couldn't get people to show up for Speed Racer, how are they going to get people to show up for something even more inaccessible? And fifth, the controversy around the racial prosthetics definitely didn't help. Whether you agree with the criticism or not, the yellowface controversy became a major part of the conversation around this film, and I think it scared some people away. But here's the thing, commercial failure doesn't always mean a movie is bad. And this is where I want to share my personal thoughts on Cloud Atlas. And I'm going to be honest with you all, this might be my most controversial take on this channel yet. I think Cloud Atlas is genuinely great, like actually great. I would rate this a 4 out of 5. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but let me explain. First off, the ambition alone deserves respect. There is nothing else like this movie. I've watched hundreds and hundreds of films for this channel, and I have never seen anything that even comes close to what Cloud Atlas is trying to do. 6 different stories across 6 different time periods and genres. You've got a historical drama set in 1849, a romantic drama set in 1936, a conspiracy thriller set in 1973, a dark comedy set in 2012, a dystopian sci-fi set in 2014-44, and a post-apocalyptic adventure set in the distant future, all woven together into one 3-hour epic. The fact that this movie even exists is a miracle. The score is phenomenal. Tom Tykwer, Johnny Klimek, and Reinhold Heil created something truly special with the Cloud Atlas Sextet. It's one of the best film scores of the 2000s in my opinion, and it does an incredible job of tying all 6 storylines together emotionally, even when the editing is cutting between them at a rapid pace. I would argue the score is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in this movie. The ensemble cast is also giving it everything they've got. Tom Hanks plays like 6 or 7 different characters, and while not all of them work, his Irish gangster is pretty rough. You can tell he's having the time of his life. Jim Broadbent is hilarious in the 2012 storyline. Ben Whishaw is heartbreaking in the 1936 storyline. Doona Bay is fantastic in the neo-soul storyline. And Hugh Grant is actually amazing in this. He plays everything from a slave owner to a cannibal chieftain, and somehow makes it work. Hugh Grant himself said in a 2014 interview, "I thought Cloud Atlas was amazing. The Wachowskis are the bravest filmmakers in the world, and I think it's an amazing film. It's frustrating to me. Every time I've done something outside the genre of light comedy, the film fails to find an audience at the box office, and sadly, Cloud Atlas never really found the audience it deserved." And I agree with Hugh Grant on that. This film never found the audience it deserved. The interconnected nature of the stories, where small acts of kindness ripple across centuries to inspire revolutions, when that theme clicks, it really clicks. There are moments in this film that genuinely moved me, and I don't say that about a lot of movies. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this movie doesn't have its problems, because it absolutely does. The biggest issue is what I'm going to call the 6-course problem. This is when a film tries to tell so many different stories at once that none of them get enough time to breathe and develop on their own. It's like going to a restaurant and ordering 6 different entrees, but they only give you a few bites of each. Each individual story in Cloud Atlas could have been its own movie. The 1936 storyline about the composer Robert Frobisher is genuinely beautiful and could easily sustain a full-length film. The neo-soul storyline is a fascinating dystopian sci-fi that deserved more screen time. But because the film is cutting between all 6 stories constantly, none of them get the depth they deserve. Some stories inevitably end up feeling undercooked. The 1973 thriller storyline in particular just feels like a generic conspiracy plot that doesn't get enough time to develop any real tension. And the post-apocalyptic storyline has Tom Hanks speaking in this broken future dialect that I'm sure sounded great on paper, but in practice it made a lot of the dialogue in those scenes pretty hard to follow. The prosthetics are hit or miss. When they work really well. I had no idea Hugh Grant played certain characters until the end credits reveal, and that was genuinely shocking. But when the prosthetics don't work, they are really distracting. Some of the racial transformations took me completely out of the movie. You've got Hugo Weaving trying to look Korean, and it just looks ridiculous. It undermines the serious themes the movie is going for when you're sitting there thinking, that is clearly Hugo Weaving in a prosthetic. The runtime is also a double-edged sword. On one hand, I appreciate that they gave every story room to breathe. On the other hand, 3 hours is a lot to ask from an audience, especially for a movie this dense. There are sections in the middle where the momentum really sags, particularly in the 2012 comedic storyline with Jim Broadbent, which, while funny, feels tonally jarring when you're cutting to it from a scene about clones being murdered in a dystopian future. I also think the movie's central theme about interconnectedness and reincarnation can come across as a bit heavy-handed at times. The film really wants you to understand that our actions echo across time, and that love transcends death, and that we're all connected. And when it conveys this through the stories and the editing and the music, it's beautiful. But when it conveys this through on-the-nose dialogue, where characters literally explain the theme to you, it can feel a bit preachy. As one critic put it, the film occasionally veers into embarrassing hippie drivel about reincarnation and cosmic interconnectedness. That's a bit harsh, but I understand where they're coming from. But here's the thing. Even with all these flaws, I think Cloud Atlas is a movie that deserves to be seen. It is so rare in modern Hollywood to see a film this ambitious, this uncompromising, and this willing to challenge its audience. In an era where every major release is a sequel, a prequel, a remake, or a reboot, Cloud Atlas stands as a reminder that sometimes filmmakers are willing to risk everything to make something truly original. And yes, it doesn't all work. But when it does work, there's nothing else like it. Cloud Atlas is also one of those movies that has been steadily growing its fan base over the years. Much like Blade Runner and The Shawshank Redemption before it, both of which were box office disappointments, Cloud Atlas has found a passionate audience on home video and streaming. Go on Reddit or Letterboxd, and you'll find entire communities of people who consider this one of the greatest films ever made. It's a movie that rewards repeat viewings because every time you watch it, you catch new connections and details that you missed before. As Lily Wachowski put it, soon as critics encounter a piece of art they don't fully understand the first time going through it, they think it's the fault of the movie or the work of art. They think, it's a mess. This doesn't make any sense. And I think she has a point. Not every movie needs to be immediately digestible. Some movies are meant to be sat with, thought about, and revisited. At the end of the day, Cloud Atlas is a fascinating case study in what happens when you make a $100 million art film with no studio safety net. It's a movie that was too complex for mainstream audiences, too weird to market, and too ambitious for its own good. The Wachowskis and Tom Tykwer poured their hearts, their money, and years of their lives into a passion project that the world just wasn't ready for. It bombed at the domestic box office, divided critics right down the middle, and never found the wide audience it was made for. And yet, despite all of that, despite the controversies, the mixed reviews, and the financial losses, Cloud Atlas still stands as one of the most unique and audacious films of the 21st century. It is deeply imperfect, but its ambition and its heart are undeniable. I truly believe that if Cloud Atlas came out today, in an era where audiences are more accustomed to complex storytelling from shows like Dark and Sense8, which the Wachowskis also made, by the way, it might have found a much bigger audience. But in 2012, the world just wasn't ready for it. Cloud Atlas joins the ranks of films like Valerian, John Carter, and The Fountain. Ambitious passion projects that swung for the fences and missed at the box office, but still left a lasting impact on the people who were willing to give them a chance. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Have you seen Cloud Atlas? Did you love it, hate it, or were you just confused the entire time? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. This has been Bob from the Sci-Fi Graveyard, and thank you so much for watching.